びの時代は終わる。
Hi guys, it's your boy Ambush Whatever here, back with another video, and for today, I'll be doing a new part of What If Deku was in Welcome to Demon School Iruma-Kun. Sorry guys for not uploading for a while, for the past week. The reason for that is I had to, I know it's getting old, but school stuff, but if you understand, if you know what pain it is to go to school for a long time, and you know how hard it is for a person or student that is trying to do a YouTube channel and stuff like that. So, if you can understand, thank you very much. So yeah. But with that out of the way, let's begin the story. We last left off when Izuku Midoriya, our main protagonist, essentially gained Aleph as his rank, as well as obtaining the Ring of Gluttony, or quote-unquote, Del Kira's Ring, which I'm not really sure, to be fair. It's a theory. It's a film theory, you could say. So yeah, but what happens is that the next day, when they were going to school, Izuku, embarrassingly, was in a carriage. Reason why? Well, because his grandfather bought him a carriage. The reason for this is because he doesn't want to see Izuku walk all the way to school. So, the man that was handling the horses was Sullivan, and the one talking to Izuku was Opera. And essentially, Opera was trying to comfort Izuku with this change because Izuku was really confused, as well as a little bit, overwhelmed, because he is essentially going to go to a school on a carriage all fancy like. So if you understand how that feels, it's so embarrassing sometimes. So yeah. So what happens next is that Izuku eventually arrives at school, and Opera essentially reveals the red carpet and calls out to Izuku and saying that have a good day, and essentially Izuku being embarrassed. Eventually, he meets up with Clara and Asmodeus, and they eventually go to their class. And the day starts with them getting to not introduction, what you call say, attendance. So they essentially say your name and say here. Next was, I guess you could say magic class. Next you could say universe or science. Then botany. If you guys don't know what botany means, it's essentially the study of plants. So essentially in this class, they were tasked to do a essentially pour their mana into the seedling and sprout a flower that represents them. So for some others was fire, and a lot of them were very creative, and I do mean creative. Like one of them essentially made a plant that was essentially filled with jewels, and it was so glamorous. One was some let's just say blurred, if I remember. It was so blurred, so representing that they were more of a what's you could say, what's the word for it? Essentially, they were more on the lines of seductive. Yeah, seductive. So when it came to Izuku now, Izuku was actually pondering for what he could essentially imagine of how it would turn out, because he wasn't really sure, to be fair, because being a being a human, what would be the best fit for him, or what does it represent? Because if I remember correctly, all of the flowers that were chosen for the in the anime were essentially chosen for reason. They represent them in some way, so which understands, like Asmodeus having a fire flower. So yeah. So when it was time to do the magic, the teacher guided him because he was very new and was very inexperienced with magic, as well as very nervous. So the teacher said, "Don't be nervous. It's just normal. So just pour your mana in and let it be, and let it represent you. To which Izuku takes a deep sigh and says, okay. Closing his eyes, he transfers his mana to the flower, imagining a water flowing. Essentially, a few minutes have passed and boom, a big cherry blossom appeared. You might be wondering, why cherry blossom though? Why am I just ripping off Iruma here? Well, if you didn't know, blossoms represent both birth and death. The meaning for that is Izuku represents the birth part of him having a new life in the underworld, and death representing the life that he had in the human world. If you think about it in a sense that of religion, the life that you have here will in the physical world will be left behind for a new life that you will start in the next life. I said, if you get what I mean, or if you don't, sorry, I'm just rambling on. But in a sense, the representation of the cherry blossom, the cherry blossom is uh, symbolizes both death and as well as birth. So it was a massive tree, and I do mean massive. It encapsulated. It was the center of the. I guess the gardening class. It was at the center, so you couldn't actually miss it. So Izuku apologizes for this for essentially quote unquote destroying the classroom. But to be fair, it wasn't destroyed. It was actually perfectly in the center, and it surprisingly was out. It was big tree, but it was at the center. So you could say that the center space uh, was occupied by the cherry blossom tree. So yeah. So he apologized to the teacher and said that I'm really sorry that I did this. To which the teacher actually, surprising Izuku, said that no, thank you, because this actually represents that we, the botany class or the flower club, you could say, or the flower class, essentially needs to be represented. And if you guys didn't know, it's kind of if you say it's kind of boring to essentially plant every day. It's boring, but no offense to farmers if I do. I mean, it's hard work. To be fair, it's hard work. It's very very hard work. Which the maintenance that you have to do is very very hard. Which I don't have the capacity to do that. If I do say so myself, I can't. I sometimes forget something. So if you understand that, yeah. But sometimes people don't really pick that class or don't really need that class in a sense because they don't really want it in a sense because uh, they think that it isn't important in their life. To be fair, it isn't unless you want to be a what's it for nature essentially a if you want a job in nature and along those lines. But essentially, yeah, that's the only thing that it's good for, as well as, well, if you want to know what is good or bad, flowers and stuff like that, it's actually pretty good to know as well. So yeah, next what happens is that Izuku actually was surprised by the teacher that he was essentially thanked by the teacher instead of scolded because he essentially destroyed the yeah he accidentally destroyed uh, a little part of the gardening classroom. So yeah, so it gave him a sense of thankfulness. The reason for that is nobody really thanked Izuku when he was helping others. Well, they thanked him in ways, but it wasn't the same. It essentially was this thank you was from the heart. To which Izuku, stuttering, said, "No problem, ma'am." To which after that, they eventually got down from the tree, and Izuku helped the workers to clean up a little bit of the cherry blossom petals because being big, the cherry blossom petals were falling down. So Izuku helped, and The teacher thanked him again for helping, to which Izuku said that it's no problem, it was originally my fault, so it isn't really a big deal. To which eventually, when it came out time to throwing everything out, all the garbage bags, and I do mean a lot of the garbage bags, it was a pile. Izuku was about to throw them away until Asmodeus came in and burned them away, or burned them to dust, and said, Izuku-sama! To which, essentially, Izuku said, oh, Alice-san, why are you still here? Shouldn't you go to your home? To which Alice said, but Izuku-sama, you're here too. It's late. To which Izuku said that, well, it was my fault. I have to clean up from my own mess, so I had to take responsibility. To which Alice said that, Izuku-sama is so honorable and so noble. To which, started to flatter Izuku. To which Izuku was a little bit flustered because it's kind of embarrassing, to be fair, if you think about it. And eventually Clara came and, the mess and stuff like that. But, after that, Izuku was going to essentially store all the things that he used for the cleaning, to which in an anime twist, when he was going to the corner, he bumped into someone, and essentially the person falling down, and Izuku was on his feet and essentially saying, oh, gomenasai, miss. To which the person was with orange hair, and which had pointy, you could say, ears. If you guys didn't know who it is, it's Ameri, or Ameri Azazel. And it was essentially a cliche anime moment, and essentially Izuku said that, Miss, are you okay? To which Ameri blushes to this, and I do mean blushes, and essentially, to which in a fast motion, she got up and grabbed Izuku's face. To which he said that, what are you? To which Ameri starts to essentially squish Izuku's cheeks. And Izuku said that in his mind, saying that, is she really mad at me? And essentially, Ameri was essentially had the face of quote unquote being mad, quote unquote, I do mean quote unquote, and Izuku grabbing her hands away and said the old phrase "Sumimase" or "I'm sorry," and essentially bowing 90 degrees. I mind you, 90 degrees. And because Izuku is holding Ameri, Ameri bowed as well, 90 degrees as well. To which, when they were struggling to remove their hands, well, to be fair, Izuku was very, very nervous, so he didn't exactly remove his hands immediately. If you guys know that Izuku is still, the powers of Lucifer and Izuku are still not fully combined yet, so you have to wait. But eventually, in Ameri's pocket, dropped a book, to which Izuku manages to grab it and inspect it. To which Ameri was about to say something, but Izuku said, oh, how nostalgic! It's memory of my first love. To which Ameri was shocked. And Izuku still continued and said that, I love this book. The reason why Izuku knows about this book is because still being abused and being neglected by his parents, Izuku had to work for money at a young age, so he had to grow up immediately. To which it was hard, as well as having been with the Bakugos. It was very, very hard for him as well, because he doesn't want to rely on the Bakugos too much and want to be independent. If the Izuku we all know and love. To which Izuku started to mumble about the things that happened, which was he worked for an assistant and stuff like that for the manga. To which Ameri asks, can you read this book? To which Izuku says, of course. However, what is it doing here? I mean, this is the To which Izuku stopped for a second, because he immediately remembered that he's in the netherworld, and he can't say that he is technically human, quote unquote, still smells like a human, but however, Izuku is eventually turning into to a devil, so or a demon, you could say. So the scent of human is not that powerful as Iruma's. It's essentially more on the lines of more on 75% human, not really fully yet, just yet. To which Izuku was about to explain himself until he saw Ameri's eyes. It was sparkling and looking at Izuku at awe. To which Ameri said or asked in a confident voice, saying that, "Can you read it?" To which Izuku said, yes, I can." To which Ameri grabbed the book and pointed to a page and said, "Can you read this?" To which Izuku says, "Yes, it says, I'm the new transfer student. Aozura kakeru desu." And Ameri essentially opened to another page and says, "How about this?" Izuku said, "Doki doki," or badump. To which Ameri flipped to another page again and said, "How about this?" To which Izuku says, "Kyun kyun," or flutter flutter. To which Ameri goes in front of Izuku's face and says, "Then come along with me." To which Ameri grabs Izuku by the collar and drags him. To which Izuku was internally panicking because he thought he was screwed, and I do mean royally screwed, because he thought that he was going to be eaten. To which, while he was having a mental breakdown, Ameri stopped and arrived to the location, and Izuku was standing just there, holding the manga, the hard copy manga, and essentially Izuku, getting out of his mental breakdown, says, "Huh? What is this?" To which Ameri, stuttering, said that, "Can you please read it to me?" To which Izuku said, "Read this?" Pointing to the manga. To which Ameri said, "Yes." To which Izuku has a thought that, and that thought is that demons cannot read Japanese, or essentially the language of humans. I'm not really sure about that, and don't quote me on that, because if I remember correctly, it was only Japanese that wasn't read. I'm assuming that they can't read English as well. To which Izuku said to himself that, well, I have no choice, either that or I am going to be exposed. To which Izuku said, okay. So Izuku starts to read the manga, and Ameri, surprising, was getting into it. A fellow manga reader, I see. But in jokes aside, but they essentially had a very, very good time. It's essentially like a book party, and they essentially read books and so on. After a while now, it was dark outside, to which Izuku notices it and says, it's so dark outside." To which Izuku looks at his phone and saw the 100 calls and messages of Sullivan. If you guys were wondering how did Izuku get a phone, Izuku had a phone. It was a gift from his grandfather, if you might be wondering. To which Izuku says, can we cut this short? I have to go. My grandfather is going to be mad at me if I came late. While Izuku was looking at his phone, at the messages and calls, Mary grabs his phone and essentially puts her number in it. To which Ameri said that, "I added my phone number to your phone, so when I call you, come immediately as possible. As well as don't tell anyone and come here alone. Got it?" To which Izuku says, "Hi." To which Izuku, remembering that he hasn't introduced himself, to which Izuku said, "Oh, by the way, I'm Izuku Lucifer. And you are?" Mary looks back and said that her name is Ameri. To which Izuku goes back to his house. To which at home, Izuku and Alice talked about the experience that he had with the student council or the student council president, Ameri. And yeah, essentially talking about that. And if you might be wondering if Sullivan was very, very worried about Izuku, yes, he was, because It's the nether realm, so he was very, very worried and essentially needed an explanation from Izuku, and Izuku explains that Ameri was just wanting to talk to him. So yeah. So the next day, Izuku was going out or going to school until he said that, can you not bring the carriage, please? Izuku said to Opera. To which Opera said, understood. To which Izuku was about to go out the gate until Opera said, Izuku-sama. To which Izuku looks around at Opera. To which Opera asks, does Izuku-sama want to go back to the human world? To which he stops for a second and thinks about it. To which he thinks about the bad times, him having to struggle, as well as his family, and the good things, meeting the Bakugos and having fun with them and being in a good family. To which Izuku says he wants to go back. However, he doesn't want to leave Grandpa because he loves Grandpa, or Sullivan, you could say. To which Opera says that if you want to return to the human world, you have to reach the highest rank to go to the human world, is what I have heard. To which Izuku stops and looks at Opera. To which Opera stops in front of Izuku and looks him in his face and said that, then good luck and do your best because you need to have resolve to stay here. To which Izuku was deep and thought about that, and Opera interrupted him and saying that the chairman is pulling out the carriage. To which Izuku essentially said, Nigarundayo! JoJo style. And essentially, if you don't know what Nigarundayo means, it's essentially running away. Essentially running away in Japanese. To which he eventually meets up with Alice and Clara. To which they walk to school and have their typical school day until it was lunchtime. Izuku ate a lot of food, and a lot of food. And it's a huge plate, you could say. It's a really, really huge plate. And Izuku manages to eat a lot, and I do mean a lot. So, Izuku was savoring his food until Alice and Clara were talking to him. And Clara said that, holding a piece of bread, eat this. To which Izuku says, Clara, I think I'm going to be full. To which, yeah. But at that moment, Izuku receives a text from Ameri and says that, come here right now. To which Izuku says that, well, guys, I have to go. I have to deal with something, if you don't mind. To which Alice says, oh, it's no problem, Izuku-sama. To which, yeah. Eventually, Izuku leaves and goes to the student council room and was being followed by Alice and Clara because they don't know what Izuku is doing, and Clara's really, really curious as to what Izuku is doing. To which what happens next is that Izuku essentially continues the story of memories of my first love. To which Izuku continues the story, and it was getting into it with Ameri until they heard, you could say, explosions at the back of the door. To which Ameri said, what was that? To which Izuku said, I don't know. To which the door bursts open, and you could see Alice and Clara. Clara essentially says, Izuku-chi, and essentially grabbing Izuku and says, let's go, Izuku-chi, as well as pinching him, you could say. To which Alice was doubting himself because he blinked and let Clara pass. Which, while that was happening, Mary essentially covers the manga book. To which, while they were fighting, while Clara was talking to Izuku, Ameri said that, well, let's leave it for that today. To which Izuku said, okay. And Ameri continued saying that if you want to raise your rank, I will wait for the time when you can stand next to me, Izuku. Having a lovable aura, you could say, or a quote-unquote crush aura. To which Izuku somewhat blushes at this and looks at Ameri with a stare. To which after that they went on their separate ways after school. To which Clara was thinking about Izuku and what he is doing and why was Ameri with Izuku and stuff like that. To which, yeah, Izuku was minding his own business and was sleeping, thinking of what Ameri said and what Opera said. To which Izuku thinks that he will do his best to go back to the human world as well as save some of his powers and essentially have a chance with fate, essentially, you could say. Fate meaning that he wants to essentially be there for the Bakugos that helped him in his hard times. So which eventually with that, Izuku sleeps. And that's it everyone for this part. I really hope you enjoy and sorry for it if it's if it's me blabbering on and stuff like that. So I really hope you enjoy, man. I really hope though. It's really hard to do this stuff and I am running out of ideas to be fair and of where to go with the story. So but I really hope you enjoy this because it really takes not really a lot, but if you could say that it takes some creativity to do this somewhat, I do mean somewhat, to do this as well as help support the channel, please. It doesn't really cost anything. So please, like I always say, like, comment, subscribe, and see you guys later. Bye everyone!